You know, when you think of Raleigh, North Carolina, your mind probably jumps straight to its famous Research Triangle Park, right? It's this global powerhouse for tech and innovation. But behind all the multi-billion-dollar breakthroughs in those gleaming new buildings, there's an unseen foundation. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on what that is and why it's probably the most critical part of the whole shebang.
Okay, so let's dive right in. To really get what's at stake here, you first have to wrap your head around the sheer scale of what's happening in this region. The numbers are, frankly, staggering.
So get this. A 2023 report came out and said the Raleigh-Durham area isn't just some major player in the life sciences. It is the #1 biomanufacturing hub in the entire United States. Yeah, not #1 in this state, #1 in the whole country.
And a top ranking like that, well, it's backed by some serious cash. Since just 2018, a massive $8.9 billion has been poured into life sciences in the region. That's an absolutely incredible level of investment and growth in just a handful of years.
So what does all that investment actually look like on the ground? Well, it's a whole ecosystem. We're talking over 300 companies, a highly specialized workforce of more than 40,000 people, and basically a who's who of the global pharma giants. You've got Biogen, Fujifilm, Eli Lilly, GSK. They are all building huge operations here.
Right, so all this money and all this brain power, it needs a place to actually work. We're not just talking about ideas floating around in the ether, we're talking about immense physical construction. And this, my friends, is where our story really begins.
We are talking about projects like Fujifilm's $2 billion campus out in Holly Springs or Biogen's $2 billion manufacturing expansion. These aren't just buildings. They're gigantic, state-of-the-art facilities, and they're home to some of the most advanced and, frankly, hypersensitive manufacturing processes on the planet.
So that leads us to a really crucial question. When you're dealing with structures this expensive, this complex, and this important, what is literally holding it all together? What makes sure it doesn't all fail?
The answer is an invisible network that we almost never think about. It's the structural steel that forms the skeleton of the building and the process piping that acts as its circulatory system. The integrity of absolutely everything relies on thousands upon thousands of connections within this hidden network.
And making sure every single one of those connections is perfect? That is not a job you leave to chance. No way. It requires a very specific, highly trained group of experts who act as the guardians of quality and safety.
Meet the AWS Certified Welding Inspector, or CWI for short. Their role is absolutely critical. A CWI isn't just someone who glances at a weld and says, yeah, it looks good. They are an impartial, third-party expert, ensuring that every single welded connection meets incredibly strict engineering and safety codes. Think of them as the objective referees of quality.
And their process is incredibly methodical. It starts long before a single weld is even made, by reviewing all the engineering plans. They verify the materials and the welding procedures, then they conduct the actual hands-on inspections, and finally, they document everything for compliance. It's this rigorous four-step process that's designed to leave absolutely no room for error. Now, this is where it gets even more complex. You see, not all welds are created equal, because not all connections are doing the same job, and for each and every job, there's a different rule book.
Each type of weld is governed by its own rule book, a specific code that dictates exactly how it must be done. A structural weld holding up a building follows the AWS D1.1 code, but the piping inside a pharmaceutical plant, that's totally different, governed by ASME B31.3. A massive storage tank or power plant piping, you guessed it, they have their own unique codes too. Each one is tailored to the specific stresses and safety requirements of its application.
And this comparison just illustrates the different stakes perfectly. A structural weld is all about strength. Its job is to bear immense loads and prevent a building from collapsing. But a sanitary weld inside a biomanufacturing facility, that's all about purity. The inside of that pipe has to be perfectly smooth, with no microscopic crevices where bacteria could grow and contaminate life-saving medicines. Two very different welds, both absolutely fundamentally critical.
So, let's jump back out and tie this all together. It's so important to connect this microscopic, detailed work back to the bigger picture of Raleigh's massive innovation boom.
This detailed, often invisible inspection work is the absolute bedrock of trust for the entire industry. Without the verified integrity of every single weld, these multi-billion-dollar investments would be impossible. The risk would simply be too high. This is what allows innovation to happen safely and reliably.
You know, the tagline from the source material for this whole explainer puts it perfectly, where innovation meets manufacturing excellence. It just drives home the point that you cannot have one without the other. The most brilliant scientific ideas in the world are completely worthless if they can't be produced safely and purely at a massive scale.
So I'll leave you with this thought. The next time you drive past a new skyscraper, a manufacturing plant, or a hospital being built, are you going to see it a little differently? Will you maybe think about that hidden network of steel and the expert guardians who ensured every single connection was perfect, holding it all together?